give the call to the Assistant Minister for Social Services and Prevention of Family Violence.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. And I'm really pleased to be speaking on this matter of public importance on trust. And I don't think the irony is lost on anyone that it's coming from the opposition leader. I mean, this is outrageous. Ask any of his colleagues. Or better still, let's revisit Nemesis as well. And of course, we had there the former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull describing him as a thug. And, you know, we look at Nemesis and what was it? Just a litany of incompetence and infighting, cuts and chaos. You can see it all on your faces today. There wasn't much support for him at all. So the cuts and chaos continue. We saw that incompetence over, 3 leaders, 9 years. But there he was, the opposition leader, always lurking about, plotting lots of cuts and chaos in all his ministerial roles. And of course, Nemesis shows us they're totally consumed with themselves, and whilst also a whole series of harsh cuts and failed policies. And all we get now from the Leader of the Opposition is negativity, whinging and negativity constantly. No positive policies. We never hear any of them. Just non-stop whinging. They haven't got a plan to ease the cost of living burden on Australian families. They've got nothing to offer the country except the negativity and division. Now, we know that the Leader of the Opposition wants Australians to work longer and get paid less. That's what we know about him. The fact is, the Leader of the Opposition is so out of touch and cannot be trusted. In contrast, our government, the Albanese Labor government, we are focused on delivering for the Australian people. Our #1 priority is addressing cost of living pressures. We know people are doing it tough. We understand this. And this government is proudly delivering a tax cut to all Australian taxpayers. And our tax cuts will deliver a bigger tax cut for Middle Australia to help with the cost of living. Now, of course, this builds on our already targeted relief in place. And already that includes the electricity bill relief, making medicines cheaper. This has made a huge difference. Making it easier and cheaper to see a doctor, cheaper childcare and expanding paid parental leave. We're building more social and affordable homes and increasing rent assistance. And we've also delivered fee-free TAFE, which has made a huge difference for trading opportunities for people right across the country. Now, as I've said, we know what the Leader of the Opposition has made it clear that he doesn't believe in tax cuts for Middle Australia. We know that, and they've had so many different positions and policies right across the board. But the fact is these tax cuts are good for Middle Australia. They're good for helping with cost of living pressures, good for labour supply and good for the economy. And our tax cuts mean that 11.5 million taxpayers will receive a bigger tax cut. That's the reality. Nurses, teachers, police are some of the most likely to benefit, with more than 95% of these taxpayers getting a bigger tax cut. And let's look at this in the context of how strongly Labor supports Australian workers and improving working conditions right across the board, whether it's job security or working conditions or tax cuts. It's only Labor that supports all of these initiatives. Now, as I said before, the opposition leader wants Australians to work longer and get paid less. And he even applies that to our brave and hard-working police officers. And let's have a look at that in terms of Labor's right to disconnect laws. They're so vitally important for workers across the country, and especially important for our police and emergency service personnel. Now, Deputy Speaker, I'm a former frontline police officer, and I know how important it is for police to have incredibly good working conditions, especially the right to disconnect. They need to have that work-life family balance. But in relation to the right to disconnect, opposition leaders opposed. Of course he is. So negative. Unbelievable. And as I said, we need to have them in place, and a lot of police have contacted me saying they are absolutely appalled that the opposition leader has taken this stance. Our police do an incredible job, and Labor backs them. We do. We know they've got to have working conditions, but the opposition leader is so out of touch. He wants to get rid of all of these laws that protect their working conditions. And in fact, it was only a couple of days ago we actually saw the Police Federation of Australia come out and condemn the opposition leader for this. And I'll quote what they said in relation to the opposition leader's actions, that they are disrespectful and wrong. Even they're onto him. Everybody's onto him. We're all onto him. He can't be trusted. Well, Deputy Speaker, I stand with the Police Federation of Australia. I stand with the police across the country. I stand with workers across the country, with Middle Australia who are doing it tough. But they're onto you, and they're onto the opposition leader. They know that he cannot be trusted. And that's just one of the many examples we see when it comes to the policies of the opposition. In fact, we finally do see that election policy from them. They just want to take away more workers' rights. That's all they want to do. But, Deputy Speaker, I would like to focus on some of the record of the opposition leader when he was actually Health Minister. I remember I was here, we saw this every day. We heard from our local constituents about what he was doing, and particularly how he destroyed the health system in this country. Let's have a look what he did, trying to dismantle Medicare. That's right, you remember dismantling Medicare by forcing all Australians to pay a $7 co-payment of the GP tax. That was appalling, especially for our senior Australians, the people who built this nation. This is what he wanted to impose, tried so hard to do that. And of course, it was said at the time, and I'll quote him, "We believe very strongly in having a price signal. There's no sense me pretending to Australians that when you walk through the door of your GP that everything can be free." How out of touch can you get? Australians remember that. They know, don't worry. Also, you want to jack up the prices of essential medicine by $5 a script, making it unaffordable. And of course, what have we done? We have made medicines cheaper. We know that people need to be able to access it. He also wanted to charge Australians who were needing to access the public hospital emergency departments. How catastrophic would that be? By saying at the time, he said the government will remove the restrictions on state and territory governments that prevent hospital emergency departments charging a modest fee for presentations. Absurd. He froze the indexation of the Medicare rebate, undermining the viability of our great GP practices and increasing out-of-pocket costs. And of course, what have we done since we're in government? Tripling the Medicare rebate to make accessing bulk billing so important, because we understand that Australians need to have that cost of living relief. And we also saw, when the opposition leader was Health Minister, ripping more than $50 billion out of our public hospitals. And, of course, we inherited this absolute mess that our government is fixing with a massive investment in Medicare. The damage that was done was so wide-ranging. The impacts upon people and the impacts upon their health and well-being has just been horrendous over the 9 years that they were in government. In fact, the opposition leader was so bad as Health Minister, that he was named the worst Health Minister in 35 years in a poll of GPs and specialists. That's the reality. And that was just one of the many, many bad policies that we saw from this government, all of their failures. And let's not forget when he was the Minister for Home Affairs as well. The opposition leader as minister then wrecked Australia's system of immigration and border security, absolutely destroyed. We saw this in the Richardson review. You've all seen it. You've all read it. You've all seen the details of it. He left our borders wide open, our communities less safe, and our economy weaker. And all of this, of course, has been detailed very, very clearly in the Richardson report. So we had that 9 years of chaos. We had the 3 leaders. We're all seeing it playing out in Nemesis, every detail of it, all the infighting. But you know what? It's because they were so focused on themselves and their infighting. And there was always the opposition leader. He was there lurking about, undermining all the time. They're focused completely on themselves. We're focused on the Australian people and delivering for them right across the board, particularly delivering that really important cost of living relief. But they will keep on with their infighting. We're all waiting for Nemesis Part 2. That'll be good to hear about this. It's the Dutton years in opposition. It'll be Nemesis Part. It'll be Nemesis. I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. Nemesis Part 2 will be the opposition leader and the infighting that does keep continuing. With clearly it does. You can see them all sitting there today, completely devoid of any interest and enthusiasm when he speaks. It was pretty bad. Well, no wonder. We know from Nemesis that they didn't trust him then. We can see it now in their faces that they know they just don't trust him now. We know it's not just all of you that don't trust him. Everybody outside's worked it out, because they know of his long history of cuts and chaos. They know when Malcolm Turnbull, former Prime Minister, described him as a thug, that he was pretty spot on. They knew that was the case. They've worked him out. They know that he's harsh with all those health cuts over such a long period of time, And they particularly know the opposition leader is so out of touch with their concerns, and he has no credibility because of his history, and all he does is come out with all of this division and negativity and whinging, and he's just got this long history of causing cuts and chaos all over the place. Well, the Australian people are completely on to him. We know you, Mobbar, but everyone knows that the opposition leader is totally out of touch, and they know the opposition leader cannot be trusted.
And I give the